We are already starting a new diplomatic week. There will be consultations with European leaders. First and foremost, security issues, support for our resilience, support packages for our defense, especially air defense, and long-term financing for Ukraine. Of course, we will discuss our shared perspective and common positions in the negotiations. In recent days, representatives of Ukraine have held substantive talks with representatives of the President of the United States of America. Right now, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council Rustem Umerov and Chief of the General Staff Andriy Hanatov are on their way to Europe. I expect detailed information about everything from them.
Europe wants its own seat at the Ukraine deal-making table, and French President Emmanuel Macron just made that unmistakably clear, firing a subtle but sharp warning shot at Donald Trump. We've got a lot of cards. As the U.S. pushes its own version of a peace framework, European leaders are signaling they won't simply rubber stamp Washington's plan. Macron insists any final deal must reflect European security interests, not just American priorities, and certainly not Vladimir Putin's demands.
Mr. President, what's the next step in Russia-Ukraine talks? What's your next step in Ukraine talks after the last?
So we've been speaking to President Putin, and we've been speaking to Ukrainian leaders, including Zelensky, President Zelensky. And I have to say that I'm a little bit disappointed that President Zelensky hasn't yet read the proposal. That was as of a few hours ago. His people love it, but he hasn't. Russia's fine with it. Russia, I guess, would rather have the whole country when you think of it. But Russia is, I believe, fine with it, but I'm not sure that Zelensky is fine with it. His people love it, but he hasn't read it. So someday you'll explain that one to me, Jeff.
Macron, along with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, is now pushing for Europe to be treated as a full co-architect of the peace plan, not an afterthought.
Vladimir, very good to see you here on nearly the 4th anniversary of this awful conflict, at a critical stage now in the push for peace. But we will talk this afternoon about the plan in some detail, but the principles remain the principles that we've operated on for a very, very long time, which is that we stand with Ukraine, and if there's to be a ceasefire, it needs to be a just and lasting ceasefire. And that's why it's so important that we repeatedly set out the principle that matters about Ukraine are for Ukraine. And we stand here to support you in the conflict and support you in the negotiations, and make sure that this is a just and lasting settlement if we can get that far. But you're very welcome. Much look forward to our discussions.
Thank you very much, Keir. Thank you for organizing this meeting. Thank you, friends. Emmanuel, Friedrich, for our joint meeting. I think that is very important now to organize such to meet and discuss very sensitive issues regarding to peace talks, what we had in the United States and between us, and our team came back, and I think that they will brief us, after talks with the American team and after talks of Americans with Russians. I think there are a lot of what we have to discuss, to speak about. It's things which are very important for today. I think unity between Europe and Ukraine, and also unity between Europe, Ukraine, and the United States. There are some things which we can't manage without Americans, things which we can't manage without Europe, and that's why we need to make some important decisions. So thank you very much for this deal.
Thank you. Emmanuel.
Thank you, Keir. Thank you for organizing this discussion, and thank you, Vladimir, to be with us together with Friedrich. I think we all support Ukraine, and we all support peace and peace negotiations to have a sustainable, a robust peace. And I think we have a lot of cards in our hands. The financing and the furniture of equipment and training programs to Ukraine, the fact that Ukraine is resisting in this war, and the fact that the Russian economy is starting to suffer, especially after our latest sanctions and the US sanctions. And now I think the main issue is the convergence between our common positions, Europeans and Ukrainians, and the US to finalize these peace negotiations and re-engage a new phase in the best possible conditions for Ukraine, for the Europeans, and for our collective security. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, for having us here in 10 Downing Street in London today. I highly appreciate that we are having the opportunity to see you, Volodymyr, together with Emmanuel, and talking about the upcoming days, because this could be a decisive time for all of us. So we are trying to continue our support for Ukraine, as you know. On the other hand, we are seeing these talks and negotiations in Moscow and the US. I'm looking forward to hear from you what the outcome of these talks might be. And we are still and remain strongly behind Ukraine and giving support to your country, because we all know that this the destiny of this country is the destiny of Europe. So that's the reason why we are here, trying to figure out what we can do. And nobody should doubt on our support for Ukraine. And this is what we are firmly standing behind, and the outcome is open. I'm skeptical about some of the details which we are seeing in the documents coming from the US side, but we have to talk about that. That's why we are here. Thank you for your invitation.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Russia and Ukraine, obviously your administration has been having talks with each side. Given that there is no peace deal at this point, will your administration stay engaged in those talks to effort a peace deal?
We just want to see people stop from being killed. You know, we don't, as you know, Joe Biden gave them $350 billion. You know what I gave them? Nothing. I gave them, well, I did give them javelins at the beginning and knocked out a hell of a lot of attacks, but, and Obama gave sheets. Remember, Obama gave sheets and I gave javelins, but no, we have a great situation going over there, except for one problem. You got a lot of people dying, and I want to see that stop. So you have mostly Ukrainian soldiers and Russian soldiers. Last month, 27,000 soldiers died, mostly soldiers. A few people from the dropping of a missile in the middle of Kiev or wherever, which is a terrible thing. But mostly soldiers. 27,000 soldiers died last month. That's what I want to see stop. We, as you know, we now sell equipment to NATO at full price, and NATO takes that equipment and probably gives it to Ukraine. I guess they could give it to others too, but for the most part, give it to Ukraine. And they're working with Ukraine in terms of distribution of equipment, missiles, etc. But we aren't spending money. What we are doing is spending time on a humane basis. We want to see if we can stop the killing of 27. It would have never happened. This war would have never happened if the election weren't rigged. If I were president, this war would have never happened.